First, I just want to acknowledge you. Acknowledge, well, first your gracious words, of gratitude and around our connection and 14 years today. Amazing. Um, this retreat has been, like you said, I feel like I've watched you over 3 retreats just fully step into yourself, into your dharma, into your offering. And I've had to step out, and you've had to really step up. And so we're in very interesting phases, different phases, which is profound and challenging and poignant and seemingly right, seemingly the way things are. So it all feels really big to me, just today and this retreat and even this talk. Not big because I have something big planned, just poignant, just meaningful. Yeah. I thought about what I wanted to maybe share if I had the space at some point, and I do now. Um, and really, as you were saying earlier, Yosei, um, for me, I always want to teach from my direct lived experience, and it's usually what's most alive for me. That's where I find the teachings are most alive and usually most helpful. That's my style, and I tend to tell stories about my life, but I never want to tell just stories about my life. I'm always thinking about what am I sharing and why am I sharing it? Who's it for? What's it for? And so I think about what's going on in my life right now, and it's profound, it's intense, and it's difficult. You've already seen, haven't really been hiding that. And I think about like, well, how much of that do I want to share, or do I want to share much about that? But I think it's actually really relevant to all of us because it's life. And it's something that we're all going to face, and our loved ones we're going to face with them. And we're facing it every moment, every day, actually. Facing impermanence. I was reading just the other day, it's nothing new, but I just read it so clearly, or I heard it so clearly. It's the only thing we're guaranteed. Impermanence. Nothing else is a given. And we know this. At some point as children, it dawns on us, sometimes really terrifyingly for children, existentially kind of awesome to face. And I think it's always existentially awesome to face, no matter what age. It's really a kind of, I think, the biggest question in many ways. And I can go into the darkness of it, into the nihilism of it, into the nothingness of it, into the meaningless of all of that. Like, does it just erase everything? Does everything not matter because it just ended? Um, or it can really highlight um, what it means to be alive, what it means to be here now. And so I was thinking about how I wanted to talk about this and what I wanted to share. And I also want to think about it in the context of just our practice and our healing and awakening. Um, from the get-go of this retreat, I was really kind of, before I got here, like, well, I'm really limited. I can't hide it. It's going to show up, and I have to show up with it as best as I can. And I told you all, and you've been all incredibly gracious. I feel so supported in not showing up and not coming. I don't, but when I'm here, I also feel supported. Um, so I feel a lot of space for you to allow that limitation to be here, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Um, and I also don't want to burden you with it. I don't want to overwhelm you with it. I don't want it to become the focus. You know, as a teacher, you don't really want to put that on your students. Um, so I'm going to try to talk about what's happening in a way that I hope doesn't come across that way. And yet, what I'm talking about is pretty tragic. For me, it feels that way. For my family, for my loved ones, it feels that way. It feels like the arc of a life, the natural, normal arc of a life, is being cut short. And like something's wrong, something went awry, something unfair, something that shouldn't be happening is happening. That's the very human feeling, and I feel it often, and those around me feel it and express it even more often, actually. um, but I actually want to explore it, because what I want to say is there is a tragic dimension to life. It just is. It's part of what we're talking about with impermanence. And so if you're interested in fully awakening, in being fully human, in being open to the full range of what it means to be alive, that's part of what you need to face, what you need to open to, contend with the tragic dimension. And that's my curriculum right now. Didn't really ask for it. I thought I'd already kind of done that work, to be honest. Naively. Not done that work. I thought I'd actually been working with death really directly for a while, for years actually. And I'd actually felt some liberation around it, moments, profound moments, actually, where I felt a real release, a real relaxation of letting go of my life. And it freed me up in big ways. And then this came back around. And I remember talking to Adia, my teacher, my main teacher, soon after I got the diagnosis. And I can't remember all the details of the conversation. It was a long and rambling conversation, but, I was somewhere talking about the arc of my kind of awakening process and how I thought I had kind of faced what I needed to face and had a big liberation around death. And it had really freed me up. It freed me up from identification with my mind and with a real sense of self. It wasn't like it was, I'm not trying to claim some complete and final thing, but just it was a remarkable opening that had happened and was just kind of living. And and then this happened. And he said, well, you know, this often happened to him and happens to a lot of people. You have this sort of awakening sometimes, and it's like a grace, and it's like a freebie. It's like, here you go. You stumble into it or you practice into it, but it's all grace, right? Um, and you kind of get to ride that for a while, and you enjoy that. And then all of a sudden, something comes back around and you have to face the whole thing. But this time it's really different. It's not a one and done. It's not a heroic kind of moment of slaying the demons or facing what you need to face. It's like a painstaking, day to day, moment to moment reckoning with something that is formidable. And I remember as he said it to me, feeling the truth of what he was sharing, not liking it, um, but actually it helping contextualize what I was going through. And that's part of what I wanted to speak about. I wanted to speak about context or meaning, you could say, because part of how I don't take this in a tragic way. And when I say tragic, I mean in a poor me, this is a mistake. This shouldn't be happening. Uh, I have all those feelings, by the way, thoughts. So it's not like I don't. But my main orientation to what I'm facing is that this is my curriculum, is that this has been placed on my altar. And my whole orientation to my life has been a spiritual orientation, an orientation to I am interested in fully awakening, fully realizing on every level what it means to be human. And I knew I had farther to go. And I know I have farther to go. It's very obvious to me every day now. But my teacher now, my daily teacher, is relentless. And um, the teachings are profound. The realizations are incredible. And the practices are brutal often. And that's just my path, you know. That's where I am. But that's how I orient to it. And other ways to say it is that, and I used to say this for the longest time, people, many of you have heard this, which is that life happens for me, not to me. I don't feel really pressed, you know, like, is that really how the world works? And is that really how you believe it works? I wouldn't say yes, that's absolutely the way it works. But I find it really effective, really helpful as an attitude, as an inner stance in which to face whatever's happening, whatever's arising, because it allows me to not go into a resistance to what's happening. Like, this should not be happening. This is a mistake. This is not what I ordered. I'd like to return it and get you know, a better one. It allows me to say, okay, what's in this for me? What is this? What's been placed on my altar? What am I to learn? How am I to grow? And so this is my most profound teacher, my most profound challenge. And it used to apply to everything for me, not to me, you know, and it was so helpful. And then this happened, the diagnosis happened, and I really grappled with, like, for like really probably a day or two, like, really? Can I really say that about this? And something kicked in, not because I decided to, but just it was like, yeah, this too, this too. And this is now my practice. And this is now my teacher. And in many moments, I forget that. In many moments, I don't approach what's happening that way. But in many moments, I remember. And as soon as I remember, I'm in a different relationship to what's happening. I'm in a different relationship to my suffering, to my resistance to what is. Another definition for suffering, resisting what is. So to me, that's what spiritual practice is. Just down to the bones is being with what is. Truly being with what is. Opening your heart and your mind and your body to what is. And so if there's resistance to what is, there is suffering, there's added suffering. There's still pain. I'm not, I'm not exempt from that. That's clearly the case. So my practices are trying to face the pain, trying to meet the pain. And I don't mean just physical pain. I mean the emotional pain or the psychological pain. All the things that you can imagine I go through, you know, the anticipation of loss of my own life, of my own capacities, the actual loss of my own capacities and life in certain situations, the anticipation of loss of my relationships with my dear ones and of their loss of me. And all of those are so human, and so painful to feel. And what I've noticed is that if I don't face them, if I don't feel them, that resistance to what is builds up, that friction builds up, the suffering actually grows. And what I've discovered amazingly in the last 14 months or so is all these mechanisms for releasing that buildup, that resistance, that energetic kind of gunk that gets in the way of allowing myself to be with what is, which is another way of saying coming back into flow, not like the ease of flow of life, but just of like, okay, I'm with this. I can be with this. This is okay. This too. And those moments are tremendous to me. Those moments of ease, of spaciousness, of allowing, of exhale, of release are my practice. And so how I do this is in a number of ways, but primarily crying. I've said this to many of you, you know this now. And this, up until 14 months ago, I would cry, but I was not much of a crier. Karen, my wife, would say, "How come you don't cry more? You cry." She would just wish I would just join her in her little week fests, and like, I'm feeling with you. I'm just not, I can't make the waterworks happen. And I can't make the waterworks not happen now. And oh my God, thank goodness, it's a superpower. And really, the superpower is not just the tears, but the emotion and the allowing of emotion to move through this body, this heart, of not holding it back, of not holding it in. And I just think the overwhelm and the intensity of everything, whatever those defenses were that I couldn't quite seem to access, get over, those just got bypassed. Those blockades got washed away, those dams got washed away. And now I just let myself feel whenever I need to. And I can do it on my own, but it's so helpful to not be alone. So many times it's just simply somebody holding me, literally holding me, or just holding me in their hearts, in their presence, in their proximity. Or it's the trees. It's not just humans. It's the more than human world that I've discovered is more and more. I was already discovering this, but also in the last 14 months, that's gone supernova. My relationship to nature and trees and the holding and benevolent, loving capacities of nature to support this organism to heal, to come back into the now. And I don't know, you know, what's going to happen with this body, this lifespan, but I am healing. Every day I'm healing. And healing happens on so many levels. And, you know, this disease may eventually, probably will, take this body. But it's not taking this life. Every day, that's my commitment, is to be alive, to find the life in each moment and each day. And for me, that means opening to what is, being with what is, not resisting what is. So coming back to spirituality, to what we're doing here, you know, we're opening to aliveness, we're following aliveness, we're rewilding. There's so many ways to talk about it. But really, we're just simply trying to be lucid and open and awake to what it means to be this one in this place. And it's constantly changing and constantly evolving and constantly challenging. And the practices are what we carry with us. Everything else is changing. We can't make it hold it still, hold it steady, keep it the way we want it. You know, we try to, if you believe. Um, so we just keep finding ways to come back to openness, to aliveness, to non-resistance. And there's so many different ways. And you'll see he's been so incredibly creative and generous in offering. Just just I don't know what to call it. It's just like a summer camp for spiritual people. Winter camp. Winter camp, sure. Winter camp. And I'm just offering you a kind of foundational practice for me. And I'm offering it to you in the most extreme way because it's a freaking lifeline for me. I literally need it to keep my life alive. I don't mean it literally. I mean it. I said literally, but I told me literally. But you know what I mean. To keep my aliveness. So to me, yeah, there's just some basic things that I think are so simple. And one is just the intention to be present over and over and over again. You can't just, set that intention in the morning and then at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I was present all day. It's really good. It's over and over and over again. And what I've noticed is that over time, as I practiced more and more and more over the years, I didn't need to be present and vigilant in the ways that I thought I had to be all the time. Mindful, what? Breath, breathing, oh, sensing. Okay, what are thoughts? What I watched, like it was a little bit like that at the beginning. I'm exaggerating it, obviously, but what I started to notice was that actually I just needed to notice when I wasn't present. And what I mean by that, or what that looks like for me, or looked like for me, is when I was in resistance to life, when I wasn't in flow, when I wasn't in a kind of harmonic relationship to what is. Because when I'm in a harmonic relationship to what is, I'm not suffering. Life is actually pretty good. I think that's true for most of us, you know? And you can enjoy that. You can be present to that. But as soon as you start to notice there's some grit, something somatically, something emotionally, something psychologically, you'll notice it when you know when you're at ease, you know when you're at peace, you know when you're in joy, we're in flow, and you know when you're out of it. You actually know when you're out of it even better. It's kind of like driving with the lights flashing. It's not very pleasant, you can kind of ignore it for a while, but and so I just think those are the times where you just pay attention. Those are the things you pay attention to. You just get curious about. But the first part is just to acknowledge, oh, I'm not at ease. There's some grit here. Just first, just admit it. Just acknowledge it. And then you can start to get curious about it. What is it? What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I sensing? And then, this is a whole other talk I'm not going to go down the road of, but and then the practices of curiosity or um, being with your experience can start to unfold that, can kind of unlock that. And all that needs to happen then is once you kind of bring awareness to it and it starts to unravel or loosen a little bit, you kind of find yourself back into a flow place, back into a place of ease again. And this little practice that I'm talking about is the same practice I'm doing every day. It's just big right now. It's just like at some point I realized as my suffering got bigger and all of that, it's like, oh shit, I just need to start practicing more. I just need to really like like get back to basics, you know? And it's humbling because for a while I was kind of flowing along pretty well. um, and now I'm not flowing along so well. Now there's a lot of grit that I've got to just sit with and breathe through and cry through and um, allow. But I will tell you this, um, this last year and a quarter since my diagnosis has been the most profound and transformative year of my life, year and a quarter. I wouldn't recommend the diagnosis, but the fruits of this have been remarkable. I feel more, interestingly enough, human and awake and emotionally available and naturally attuned to the sacred wild and multidimensionally kind of cracked open to other realms. Like it's it's been quite a profound teacher in that way or catalyst in that way. So it's not just one thing, you know, it's not just tragic. It's a lot of things. And there's a lot of gifts in it. And I don't think the gifts would have come without the attitude and the practice. And I think I'm saying this for all of you as well, because this applies to small things and big things. That's why I say life happens for you, not to. Because if you look at it like it's happening for you, and you get curious about it, and you come closer to it, rather than trying to push it away and kind of stick it in the closet, you lose out on the gifts. You lose out on the messages. It's never what you think it is. Your worst fears, the worst pains, there's always more. Life is not what you think it is, what we think it is. Cancer is the biggest freaking boogeyman we have. You know, it's a big word in our culture. You know, and I've got the conditioning in me as well. I've had to kind of really work with that too. It's like it's not what it it's not what I think it is. It's the boogeyman in the closet. You open the closet and it's something very different. I still have to contend with what it is, but there's so many things that I've told myself and we've told ourselves about what it is that aren't true, or that don't have to be true. So I hope that my story and my practice can serve as an inspiration or as an example for the hardships that come your way, the things that you want to say no to, that will happen and are happening all the time. And just to recognize that your attitude, your response to it, your relationship to it is everything. It does not define you. How you respond defines you, defines your life. And I really am open to miracles, by the way. um, so, I have this, I had this sort of, and Mio and I had this a little bit, like almost like, oh my God, is our last talk together? Maybe my last talk. I mean, I don't know if any of that's true, but there can be that kind of quality to it. And in this moment, I'm like, I don't know what's true. And if it is, fuck yeah, I love it. I love this moment. I love us. And thank you for letting me speak and listen to me. I'm so glad to share what I'm sharing. And um, I'm just going to keep doing that until I can stop doing it. Whether there's one person there listening or not, or actually, it doesn't have to be a person. I'm mostly talking to myself. I'm trying to entertain myself. I was cracking myself up yesterday. I was I was resting and in pain, as I told you all yesterday. I went to the hot tub in the afternoon. I was laying there and I was just bored of my freaking bed. Like, how much time can I spend in my bed? And I thought, oh, I can go to the hot tub. And the sun had come out, and so I went to the hot tub, and I actually had a really nice time. It was so good. And then getting out of the hot tub, it's like, oh my Lord, like getting out was an effort just physically, and then getting the freaking hot tub cover back down, and I was cold, and I'm drying off, and my leg is sore, and so by the time I'm walking back in, all the pleasure had been wiped away by the pain I was in and the discomfort. I was like, oh, now I got to get back upstairs. Was this? I wasn't really thinking it, but it was a little bit of, was this worth it? And then I caught that moment as I was coming back in, and I thought, look at you, grumpy guy. Like, you're turning this whole fun adventure into like, oh, this sucks that I have to limp back upstairs. So I start kind of limping back through the living room and up the stairs. And I don't know where this came from, but I'm glad nobody was in that place, because you guys, I don't know if how many of you watch The Office. Okay. And Taj, my son, loves that. He's watched it like 7 times through every season, And I've probably watched 2 or 3 seasons at least with him. And so we crack up. And one of our favorite scenes is the parkour. Scene, scene. And now it's this whole meme on the internet, right? You know. So as I'm going through the living room and up the stairs and I'm limping, I'm like swiveling around the couch. Parkour! And get to the banister. Parkour! I'm just cracking myself on the top of the stairs. I'm just laughing. And I'm laughing at myself and thinking, that's what I got to do. I just got to laugh at myself through the pain. So that's my final dharma lesson gift to you. Parkour. Okay. Thank you all.
I just want to take a minute and just take in the gift of you. I'll just see that for a minute. I told you this, but I got this image there, bushwhacking up ahead, doing the hard stuff. And for a lot of people that do that, they just focus on that. But what you're special, you're not only bushwhacking, but you're teaching it. You're kind of calling back to the rest of us to say, hey, here's how to do this. Your life as you're teaching. And it's such a profound gift to everyone who has the opportunity to hear it. I'm glad I get the mercy. We all get this front row seat this time.
The joy to share. Thank you. It's a way to transmute my pain and my suffering and to take not just my pain and my suffering, but to take what comes through it, what comes from it, what comes from the practice. It's a way to share it, to offer it, to turn it into something that's not just mine, not just for me, and not just pain or negative. It's my hope.